Senator Batters.
Senator Gold, when Prime Minister Trudeau announced that he was invoking the Emergencies Act, he told Canadians that it would be in a, quote, geographically targeted way, applicable only to those within the zone specified. However, we see in reality the federal government's massive overreach in the proclamation, declaring a public order emergency, which states that the public order will apply, quote, throughout Canada. This country has the second largest landmass in the world, Senator Gold. How is declaring a public order emergency throughout Canada possibly geographically targeted? And if you'll properly admit that it isn't, why did Prime Minister Trudeau misinform Canadians in this way?
Senator Gold.
There was no misleading of Canadians, and although I've addressed this question before, I'm doing the best job I can to answer your questions, but I obviously will have to answer the same question more than once. The emergency, the situation that faced Canada was not confined to Ottawa, nor was it confined to Ontario. What happened, whether it was in Coutts, Alberta, for which the Premier of Alberta, in writing, requested assistance from the federal government, saying he needed the assistance and was not able to manage it alone. What happened in Manitoba, what's continuing to happen in the streets of Winnipeg, what's happening in Surrey and the border crossing in BC, and certainly what's happening here. Did I forget to mention the Ambassador Bridge? I did, indeed. And the threats to the stability of our democratic institutions are not confined to one province. The Act is clear that in cases where the national emergency extends beyond one province, it is appropriate, responsible, and prudent for the government to declare a national emergency across the country, across Canada, because elements of this are found in all parts of the country. But we need to draw a distinction, and lawyers and parliamentarians alike will appreciate the difference between the law on the books and the law in action. There is no evidence that the measures that have been authorized under the declaration, the proclamation, or the regulations are taking place anywhere else where they're not needed. There is no evidence of overreach in Quebec, in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, your province, Senator, or anywhere else where there is no need for these extraordinary powers. Because I remind colleagues, and this is really critical, it is only where local authorities, whether legislatures, municipalities, or police forces, are not capable of managing a crisis. And this includes crises that could be very violent, to return to an earlier question. It's only when you're not able to deal with it that the Act would potentially apply. But again, it hasn't been applied where it hasn't been needed, and that's what the Prime Minister was trying to communicate, and that's what is appropriate for him to have communicated. It would be irresponsible for any federal government, regardless of whether you think, whatever you think of this particular government, to deny itself the ability to respond in a crisis to a situation that could emerge like that tomorrow, where someone to return to the border, whether in Alberta, BC, or elsewhere in the country. It would be irresponsible to deny the local law authorities and the local jurisdictions the ability to invoke on a temporary basis the tools that we saw working so effectively to liberate our city and return it to its citizens.
Senator Batters.